The Iron Phoenix moved through space like a predator hunting its prey. Tejo had turned the tables completely. What began as an ambush by 12 Velkari raiders had become a one-sided battle of annihilation. The 7th Velkari ship tried to escape. Its captain had seen enough death and wanted no more part in this disaster. The raider ship turned away from the human vessel and pushed its engines to maximum power. Tejo watched the fleeing ship on his tactical display. Computer, calculate intercept course for the retreating vessel. Course calculated. Time to intercept 4 minutes 30 seconds. Execute intercept course. Charge railgun systems. The Iron Phoenix changed direction smoothly, its advanced engines providing thrust that defied everything the Velkari knew about ship design. The human vessel accelerated toward the fleeing raider like an arrow shot from a bow. The Velkari captain watched his sensor display with growing terror. The human ship was gaining on him despite his head start. His engines were already at maximum power, but the cargo vessel was still faster. How was that possible? The answer lay in human engineering philosophy. While other species built their ships to meet minimum requirements, humans built everything to exceed maximum expectations. The Iron Phoenix's engines were 3 times more powerful than they needed to be, because Tejo believed that enough was never actually enough. The railgun fired when the Iron Phoenix came within optimal range. The tungsten slug crossed the distance in less than a second, striking the fleeing ship's engine section. The Velkari raider exploded in a bright flash, adding another debris field to the growing collection scattered throughout the star system. War Commander. Nethkor watched another of his ships die and felt something he had rarely experienced in his long career. Fear. Real fear. The kind that made his scales itch and his hands shake. All ships form defensive formation around my command vessel, he ordered. Maybe together we can... His words were interrupted by another explosion. The 8th Velkari ship had tried to attack the Iron Phoenix from behind, while Tejo was dealing with the fleeing raider. The human captain had somehow detected the sneak attack and fired a spread of missiles without even turning around. The Velkari ship was now an expanding cloud of radioactive gas. How did he know? One of the surviving Velkari captains asked over the communication channel. We were behind him. Our sensors showed no indication that he detected our approach. Tejo could have explained that human ships were equipped with sensor systems that covered every direction simultaneously, but he was too busy fighting to give lectures. The Iron Phoenix spun around to face the remaining 4 Velkari vessels directly. 4 ships against 1. Still bad odds for most people, but the odds had been 12-1 when this fight started, and Tejo was still here while 8 enemy ships were not. The remaining Velkari ships tried a coordinated attack. They approached from different angles, firing everything they had at the human vessel. Plasma beams, ion cannons, missiles, and kinetic projectiles filled the space around the Iron Phoenix. Tejo's ship took the punishment and kept fighting. The armor glowed white-hot from absorbed energy, but it held. The point defense systems shot down most of the incoming missiles. The few hits that got through caused minor damage that the ship's repair systems immediately began to fix. Hull temperature at 95% of maximum, the computer announced. Understood, Tejo replied calmly. Activate emergency cooling systems. Panels opened along the Iron Phoenix's hull, exposing heat radiators that glowed like small suns. The excess thermal energy began to dissipate into space, bringing the ship's temperature back to manageable levels. This was another human innovation that the Velkari had never seen before. The Iron Phoenix fired back with everything it had. Railguns and missiles struck 2 Velkari ships simultaneously. The aliens' formation collapsed as their vessels exploded, leaving only War Commander Nethkor and 1 other raider. Sir? The surviving captain called to Nethkor. We should retreat. This fight cannot be won. Nethkor wanted to agree, but his pride would not let him run from a single enemy ship. He had built his reputation on successful raids against helpless merchants. If word spread that he had fled from 1 human cargo hauler, his authority would be destroyed. We stay and fight, he declared. 2 ships can still defeat 1. But even as he spoke the words, Nethkor knew they were not true. This human was not like the other merchants they had attacked. This one fought like a warrior with skill and determination that matched any military officer Nethkor had ever faced. The 2 remaining Velkari ships tried one final desperate attack. They came at the Iron Phoenix from opposite directions, hoping to divide the humans' attention. It was a good plan, the kind that had worked against other single vessels in the past. Against Teho, it failed completely. The Iron Phoenix somehow managed to target both ships at the same time. One railgun fired at Nethkor's command ship, while the other destroyed the final raider. The war commander's vessel took a glancing blow that disabled its weapons and engines but did not destroy it completely. Nethkor found himself floating helplessly in space, his ship crippled but intact. His crew was alive but terrified. They waited for the human to finish them off, but the killing shot never came. Instead, Teho's voice came over the communication system. "Velkari Commander, you are defeated. I am allowing you to live so that you can carry a message back to your people." Nethkor could barely believe what he was hearing. You are sparing us?" "I am sparing you for a reason," Teho replied. "Tell your leaders what happened here today. Tell them that humans do not make easy targets. Tell them that we protect our trade routes and our people. Tell them that attacking human ships is a mistake they should not repeat." The war commander looked at his tactical display. 12 ships had entered this battle. 11 were now debris fields drifting through space. Only his command vessel remained, crippled and helpless. One human merchant had destroyed an entire raiding fleet. "I will deliver your message," Nethkor said quietly. "Good," Teho replied. "Now get out of my star system." The Velkari command ship limped away on emergency power, its crew silent with shock and shame. They had learned something important today. Humans were not the weak. Peaceful merchants that galactic intelligence reports had described, they were something much more dangerous. Teho watched the damaged ship disappear into hyperspace, then turned his attention back to his mission. The medical supplies in his cargo hold were still needed on New Busan. People were sick and dying while he wasted time fighting pirates. Computer, resume course to New Busan colony. Estimated time of arrival? Course resumed. Estimated arrival time, 6 hours, 14 minutes. Good, send a message to Earth Command. Inform them that the Kepler 442 trade route has been cleared of hostile vessels. Message sent. Captain, the Iron Phoenix continued on its journey, leaving behind the wreckage of an entire Velkari raiding fleet. But this was only the beginning. News of the battle would spread throughout the galaxy, carried by the survivors of Nethkor's defeated fleet, and somewhere in the depths of space, Admiral Krextal was receiving an emergency signal that would change everything he thought he knew about humans. The battle ended within minutes of the human fleet's arrival. Commander Kim Jae-min's destroyers moved with precision that spoke of countless hours of training and coordination. The Sol's Furion, her sister ship, surrounded the remaining Velkari vessels while the Iron Phoenix continued to glow with absorbed energy from the destroyed dreadnought. Admiral Krextal watched his fleet die around him. The human warships fought with a level of tactical coordination he had never encountered before. Every movement was calculated, every shot perfectly aimed. There was no waste, no hesitation, no mercy. His second dreadnought tried to escape, but a human battleship appeared directly in its path. The Earth vessel was smaller than the Velkari dreadnought, but when the two ships exchanged fire, the result was devastating for the aliens. Human weapons punched through Velkari shields as if they did not exist, while the dreadnought's return fire barely scratched the human ship's armor. The dreadnought exploded in a cascade of secondary explosions that lit up the entire star system. Admiral Krextal's flagship was now the only major Velkari vessel still intact, and it was surrounded by 6 human warships. "Velkari fleet, this is Admiral Choi Hyejin of the Terran Defense Force," a new voice said over the communication channels. "You have attacked human vessels and threatened human lives. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Krextal had never heard of this Admiral Choi, but her voice carried an authority that made his scales crawl. This was not the voice of a merchant or explorer. This was the voice of a warrior who had commanded many battles and won them all. We surrender," Krextal said quietly. "All Velkari vessels, shut down your weapons and prepare to be boarded," Admiral Choi ordered. "Any attempt to escape or resist will result in immediate destruction." The remaining Velkari ships complied, their crews too shocked and demoralized to fight further. Human boarding parties secured the alien vessels while technical teams began downloading data from their computers. Everything the Velkari knew about their own military would soon be in human hands. Teho watched the surrender from his captain's chair. The Iron Phoenix was finally cooling down. its hull returning to normal color as the absorbed energy dissipated. The ship had performed beyond his wildest expectations, proving that human engineering could overcome almost any challenge. "Captain Lee," Admiral Choi's voice came over his communication system. "Excellent work. Your actions here today have provided us with valuable intelligence about alien military capabilities." "Thank you, Admiral," Taeho replied. "But I still have a delivery to make. The people on New Busan are waiting for these medical supplies." Admiral Choi almost smiled at the merchant captain's dedication. Even after fighting 2 major battles and defeating an entire enemy fleet, his first concern was completing his mission. That attitude was very typically human. "Proceed to New Busan, Captain. We will handle the cleanup here." The Iron Phoenix resumed its journey while the human fleet processed the captured Velkari ships. The alien prisoners were separated and interrogated, providing Earth Command with detailed information about Velkari military structure, tactics, and technology. But the most important part of the operation was still to come. Dr. Shin Bora had arrived with Admiral Choi's fleet, along with a team of psychologists and communication specialists. Their job was to craft the perfect message to send to the Velkari government and, through them, to the entire galaxy. The message must accomplish several things, Dr. Shin explained to Admiral Choi. It needs to warn the Velkari against future attacks, demonstrate human military capability, and establish our reputation throughout galactic society. "What do you recommend?" the Admiral asked. "Something simple but memorable. Other species need to understand that humans are not the peaceful merchants they appear to be. We are a species that has been shaped by 10,000 years of warfare on our homeworld." The message was loaded into the computers of the surviving Velkari vessels before they were released. Admiral Krextal and the other survivors would carry this information back to their government, and from there it would spread throughout the galaxy. But the humans also made sure the message would reach other species. Copies were transmitted to every major galactic communication network, ensuring that no government could ignore what had happened in the Kepler 442 system. The message was elegant in its simplicity. "To all species who consider attacking human vessels, the species you face today has been practicing warfare for 10,000 years. We have survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, and countless wars against our own kind. We have turned conflict into an art form, survival into a science, and victory into an inevitability. What you witnessed in the star system was not a battle, it was a demonstration. Choose your next actions wisely." Terran Defense Force Admiral Krextal read the message during his long journey home and felt a chill run down his spine. The humans had not just defeated his fleet, they had made it look easy. One merchant ship had destroyed 12 raiders without taking serious damage. One experimental weapon system had absorbed planet cracker torpedoes and used that energy to obliterate a dreadnought. If this was what human merchants could do, what would happen when their actual military arrived? The answer to that question was already spreading through galactic intelligence networks. Every major government received detailed reports about the battle, complete with sensor data and tactical analysis. The conclusions were unanimous and terrifying. Humans were not the peaceful species they pretended to be. They were apex predators who had evolved in constant warfare. Their technology was more advanced than anyone had realized. Their tactical abilities were superior to any known military force. War Commander Nethkor, now a traumatized refugee living on a remote Velkari colony, spent his days warning anyone who would listen. "They don't just fight to win," he would say, his voice shaking with remembered fear. "They fight like the universe itself is trying to kill them, and they have decided to kill it first." Meanwhile, Taeho delivered his medical supplies to New Busan colony as promised. The sick were treated, lives were saved, and the mission was completed successfully. The colony administrators tried to thank him for his service, but Taeho simply shrugged. "I was just doing my job," he said. His after-action report to Earth Command was typically understated. Minor piracy incident resolved. Continuing to destination as planned. Recommend increased security patrols in Kepler 442 system, but across the galaxy, military strategists were asking a much more important question. If one human cargo ship could do this much damage, what could humanity accomplish when they decided to go to war? The answer, as several species would soon discover, was that humans had never really stopped being at war. They had just been looking for worthy opponents. The galaxy had just volunteered to provide them. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 442, as historians would later call it, piracy and human trade routes had dropped to almost zero. No alien government wanted to risk provoking a species that could disguise warships as merchant vessels. The Terran Defense Force established permanent patrol bases throughout human space, but they found little work to do. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about humans, and most species were intelligent enough not to repeat the Velkari's mistakes. But in the deepest regions of space, other species watched and learned and planned. Some saw humans as a threat to be eliminated. Others saw them as potential allies in their own conflicts. The galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place, and somewhere in the depths of space, Captain Lee Taeho continued his trade routes, carrying cargo and protecting human interests with quiet efficiency. His ship remained disguised as a simple merchant vessel, ready to spring another surprise on anyone foolish enough to threaten human lives. The Iron Phoenix had become a legend, but Taeho preferred it that way. Legends, after all, were often more effective than reality at keeping enemies away. The galaxy now knew that attacking humans was a mistake that few would survive to regret. Admiral Krextall stared at the emergency message with disbelief. War Commander Nethkor was reporting that his entire raiding fleet had been destroyed by a single human cargo ship. 12 vessels eliminated by one merchant hauler. It was impossible, but the sensor data did not lie. The automated distress beacon had recorded everything: energy signatures, weapon impacts, ship destructions. The evidence was clear, even if it made no sense. Krextall was the supreme commander of the Velkari military in this sector. He had fought against many species during his long career. Humans had only recently appeared in galactic space, and every report described them as peaceful traders and explorers. Their ships were lightly armed and poorly defended. They avoided conflict whenever possible. This battle data suggested something very different. "Prepare the fleet," Krextall ordered his staff officers. "We will investigate this situation personally." "Sir," his tactical officer replied, "perhaps we should request additional ships from the home fleet. If the humans have some kind of new weapon technology, 2 dreadnoughts and 6 escort cruisers should be more than adequate," Krextall interrupted. "We are dealing with a single merchant vessel, not a battle fleet." The Admiral's pride would not let him believe that humans posed a serious military threat. One ship getting lucky against Nethkor's raiders was possible, but no species could build cargo haulers that could stand against proper military vessels. The Velkari fleet moved through hyperspace toward the Kepler 442 system. Their ships were massive and powerful, designed to destroy planets if necessary. The 2 dreadnoughts alone carried enough firepower to reduce a world to molten rock. Meanwhile, Taeho continued his journey toward New Busan Colony. His ship's sensors detected the approaching Velkari fleet while it was still hours away. The energy signatures were unmistakable: capital ships, probably dreadnoughts with escort vessels. "Computer, send priority message to Earth Command. Report incoming hostile fleet. Request immediate assistance." "Message sent, Captain." However, the nearest Earth military vessels are 12 hours away. Taeho considered his options. He could try to run, but the medical supplies were desperately needed on New Busan. People would die if he abandoned his mission. He could try to hide, but the Velkari would eventually find him. That left only one choice: fight. But this time he would not be fighting alone. Commander Kim Jaemin received the distress call while patrolling the Vega sector with his destroyer squadron. The Soul's Fury and her sister ships were too far away to reach Taeho quickly, but they immediately changed course and pushed their engines to maximum speed. At Earth Command, Admiral Choi Hee-jin watched the tactical display with growing interest. She had been following the reports from the Kepler 442 system with great attention. The battle data from Taeho's fight with the raiders had provided valuable intelligence about alien combat capabilities. Now, it seemed the aliens were escalating the conflict. "Send flash message to all ships in the region," Admiral Choi ordered. "Any vessel within 6 hours of Kepler 442 is to proceed immediately to assist Captain Lee. This is now a priority 1 situation." The Admiral understood what many aliens did not. Humans took attacks on their people very personally. The Velkari had made a mistake when they attacked Taeho's ship. Now they were making an even bigger mistake by sending a fleet after him. Admiral Krextal's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Their sensors immediately detected the human ship, still traveling toward New Busan at a steady pace. The cargo vessel appeared to be alone and undefended. "Target the human ship," Krextal ordered. "Prepare to fire planet cracker torpedoes." "Sir?" his weapons officer said hesitantly. "Those weapons are designed to destroy entire worlds. Using them against a single ship seems— I want that human vessel completely obliterated," Krextal replied coldly. "Nothing must remain. No debris, no sensor echoes, nothing." The dreadnoughts charged their most powerful weapons. Planet cracker torpedoes were normally used to destroy heavily fortified worlds or eliminate entire enemy fleets. Using them against one cargo ship was massive overkill, but Krextal wanted to send a message to humanity. Challenge the Velkari at your own risk. Taeho watched the enemy fleet approach on his sensors. 2 dreadnoughts and 6 cruisers. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The odds were not good even with all his ship's improvements. "Computer, activate all defensive systems. Charge all weapons. Prepare for heavy combat." "All systems activated, Captain. Warning, enemy vessels are charging planet cracker weapons. Recommend immediate evasive action." "Negative. Maintain current course. If we run now, they will just catch us later. Better to fight them here." The Iron Phoenix had one advantage that the Velkari did not know about: adaptive shielding. This was experimental human technology that could absorb incoming energy and redirect it back at attackers. The system had never been tested against weapons as powerful as planet crackers, but Taeho had no choice except to trust his ship's designers. The Velkari dreadnoughts fired their planet cracker torpedoes. 2 massive energy projectiles raced across space toward the Iron Phoenix. Each torpedo carried enough destructive power to crack a planet's crust. Together, they should have been able to destroy anything. The torpedoes struck the Iron Phoenix simultaneously. For a moment, space itself seemed to catch fire as unimaginable energies were released. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. When the light faded, Admiral Krextal expected to see empty space where the human ship had been. Instead, he saw something that challenged everything he thought he knew about physics. The Iron Phoenix was not only intact, but it was glowing with absorbed energy. The adaptive shielding had taken the full force of both planet crackers and converted that power into the ship's own energy. "Reserves, impossible," Krextal whispered. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "the human ship is redirecting the absorbed energy back at us." The Iron Phoenix had become a weapon of unimaginable power. All the energy from the planet cracker torpedoes was now under Taeho's control. He aimed his ship at the nearest dreadnought and released the stored power in one massive beam. The Velkari dreadnought simply ceased to exist. The redirected energy tore through its shields and armor as if they were made of paper. The mighty warship exploded in a flash of light that briefly outshone the system's star. The second dreadnought and the escort cruisers opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, missiles, and kinetic projectiles filled the space around the Iron Phoenix. But the human ship's adaptive shielding continued to absorb the attacks, growing stronger with each hit. Admiral Krextal realized that his fleet was trapped in a nightmare scenario. Every weapon they fired at the human ship only made it more powerful. They were literally feeding energy to their enemy. "All ships, cease fire," he ordered desperately. "Do not give it more power." But it was too late. The Iron Phoenix had absorbed enough energy to power a small city. Taeho fired the stored power at the escort cruisers, destroying 3 of them in a single shot. The remaining Velkari ships began to retreat, but their movement was detected by the approaching human reinforcements. Commander Kim Jae-min's destroyer squadron had arrived, followed by 2 human cruisers and a battleship. The Velkari found themselves caught between the Iron Phoenix and a growing human fleet. What had started as an attack on a single merchant had become a major battle between 2 military forces, and the humans were winning. Lee Taeho sat in the captain's chair of his ship, the Iron Phoenix. The ship was old but strong, like an old warrior who had seen many battles. Taeho had bought the cargo ship 5 years ago and changed almost everything inside it. Where other captains saw a simple transport vessel, Taeho saw potential. The stars outside looked peaceful, but Taeho knew better. This part of space was dangerous. Pirates and raiders came here often because the Galactic police rarely patrolled these areas. Most ship captains avoided this route, but Taeho needed the money. The colony on New Busan was paying good credits for medical supplies, and they needed them fast. Taeho checked his instruments again. Everything looked normal. His ship moved through space at a steady speed, its engines humming quietly. The cargo hold was full of medicine, antibiotics, and surgical equipment. People were sick on New Busan, and without these supplies, many would die. The Iron Phoenix looked like any other cargo ship from the outside. It had the same basic shape, the same size, and the same paint job, but underneath things were very different. Taeho had spent years and most of his savings making changes. The armor was thicker and made from special metals found only on Earth. The engines were more powerful than anything a cargo ship should have. The weapons were hidden but ready. Taeho had learned these skills in the Earth military. He had been an engineer on warships for 10 years before becoming a merchant captain. He knew how to build things that lasted, and he knew how to build things that could fight. The first sign of trouble came from his long-range sensors. 12 ships were moving toward him from behind a large asteroid. They were trying to hide, but Taeho's sensors were better than most. He watched the display and counted the vessels. 12 against 1, not good odds for most people. But Taeho was not most people. The ships were Valkyrie raiders. Taeho recognized their ship designs from the intelligence reports he read. The Valkyrie were lizard-like aliens who attacked merchant vessels in this sector. They had been causing problems for months. The Galactic authorities said they were working on the problem, but nothing had been done yet. The Valkyrie ships spread out in an attack formation. They thought they were being clever, surrounding the lone human ship. Their commander probably expected an easy victory. After all, what could one cargo ship do against 12 warships? Taeho opened a channel to his ship's computer. Computer, run full diagnostics on all systems. All systems are functioning normally, Captain. The computer replied in its calm voice. Good. Activate combat protocols. Authorization Taeho 77 Alpha. Combat protocols activated. All weapon systems are now online. Defensive systems are ready. Taeho felt a familiar calm settle over him. This feeling had kept him alive during his military service. His heart rate slowed and his mind became focused. He had prepared for this moment for years. The Valkyrie ships were getting closer. Soon they would be in weapons range. Taeho could try to run, but his ship was carrying too much weight to outrun 12 raiders. He could try to call for help, but no one would arrive in time. That left only one option. Fight. The lead Valkyrie ship sent a message. The voice was rough and filled with threat. Human vessel, shut down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Surrender your cargo and we might let you live. Taeho almost smiled. He had heard similar threats before, back when he was in the military. Pirates and raiders always said the same things. They always thought they had the advantage. Sometimes they were right. Today they were very wrong. Unknown vessels, Taeho replied, his voice steady and calm. You are interfering with a medical supply run to New Busan colony. People will die without these supplies. I suggest you change course and leave this area. The Valkyrie commander laughed. The sound was harsh and unpleasant. One ship against 12? You humans are either very brave or very stupid. Sometimes, Taeho said quietly. Those are the same thing. The Valkyrie ships moved closer. Their weapons were charging up. Taeho could see the energy readings on his sensors. Plasma cannons, ion beams, and missile launchers. Standard raider equipment, deadly to most merchant ships. But the Iron Phoenix was not most merchant ships. Computer, prepare to record everything. Send continuous data stream to Earth Command. Authorization Taeho 77 Beta. Recording started. Data stream established. Earth Command will receive real-time battle information. This was important. If Taeho died today, at least the Earth military would learn something from his death. They would know how the Valkyrie fought, what weapons they used, and what tactics they preferred. That information might save other human ships in the future, but Taeho did not plan to die today. The Valkyrie ships finished their approach. They were now in a perfect attack formation around the Iron Phoenix. Their commander was probably feeling very confident. 12 ships against 1. What could go wrong? Last chance, human, the Valkyrie commander said. Surrender now or we will destroy your ship. Taeho looked at his weapons display. All systems showed green lights. Everything was ready. He thought about the sick people on New Busan, who were waiting for the medicine in his cargo hold. He thought about his promise to deliver the supplies safely. He thought about all the other human merchants who might travel this route in the future. "I gave you a chance to leave," Tejo said into his microphone. "You should have taken it." He pressed a button on his control panel. The Iron Phoenix began to change. Hidden panels slid open along the hull. Weapon ports appeared where there had been smooth metal before. The ship's engine suddenly blazed brighter as more power became available. The Velkari had attacked many ships before. They knew how merchant vessels fought when cornered. Usually the merchants had one or two small weapons, maybe some defensive shields. They would try to fight for a few minutes before surrendering or dying. The Iron Phoenix was about to teach them that human merchants were different, very different. The Velkari ships opened fire all at once. Bright beams of plasma energy crossed the space between them and the Iron Phoenix. The alien commander expected to see the human ship break apart under the concentrated firepower. Instead, something impossible happened. The Iron Phoenix absorbed the energy. The ship's hull began to glow red, then orange, then bright yellow. But it did not explode. It did not break apart. The armor plating that Tejo had installed was made from materials the Velkari had never seen before. The metal could take enormous amounts of heat and energy without failing. Inside the ship, Tejo felt the impact of the weapon's fire. The Iron Phoenix shook, but not violently. The inertial dampeners he had installed kept him firmly in his seat. Warning lights flashed on his control panel, but they were all green or yellow. No red lights yet. Hull temperature rising, the computer announced. Thermal absorption at 60% capacity. Understood, Tejo replied. He was not worried. The ship could handle much more punishment than this. The Velkari fired again, pouring more energy into their target. They could not understand why the human ship was still intact. Their weapons were military grade, designed to destroy much larger vessels than a simple cargo hauler. But the Iron Phoenix was not simple. "Computer, identify the lead enemy vessel," Tejo ordered. "Target identified. Velkari heavy raider approximately 400 meters long. Crew estimated at 200 individuals. Lock weapons on that target. Weapons locked. Ready to fire on your command." Tejo took a deep breath. In his military career, he had fired weapons in anger many times. But this was different. This was personal. These aliens were trying to stop him from delivering medicine to sick people. They were threatening innocent lives for profit. That made them his enemies. "Fire," he said quietly. The Iron Phoenix erupted with violence that defied all galactic understanding of merchant vessels. Two massive railguns extended from hidden compartments in the ship's hull. These weapons did not fire energy beams like most alien weapons. Instead, they fired solid projectiles at incredible speed. The tungsten slugs that emerged from the railguns were each the size of a small car. They had been accelerated to nearly 1/4 the speed of light. When they hit their target, the physics were simple but devastating. The lead Velkari ship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, firing plasma bolts at the human vessel. The next moment it was an expanding cloud of superheated gas and metal fragments. The tungsten slugs had passed completely through the raider ship and continued into space, their deadly journey far from over. The other Velkari ships stopped firing. Their sensors could barely process what they had just witnessed. The energy readings from the human ship's weapons were unlike anything in their databases. No merchant vessel should have possessed such firepower. "What just happened?" one of the Velkari captains asked over their communication channel. "The human destroyed Nethavor's ship," another replied. His voice filled with shock. War Commander Nethgor, leading the raiding fleet from his command ship, stared at his tactical display. One of his vessels had been completely obliterated by a single shot from the cargo ship. This was supposed to be an easy raid against a helpless merchant. "All ships spread out," Nethgor ordered. "Use evasive maneuvers. Do not let that human target you directly." But the Iron Phoenix was already moving. Tejo had activated the ship's full engine power, and the vessel accelerated at a rate that should have been impossible for its size. The inertial dampeners kept him safe, but any normal alien crew would have been crushed by the forces involved. Humans had evolved on a heavy world with dangerous weather and constant threats. Their bodies were built to withstand forces that would kill most other species. Tejo could handle accelerations that would turn a Velkari into paste. The Iron Phoenix spun around and fired again. The second Velkari ship tried to dodge, but the railgun slug was too fast. The projectile caught the raider in its engine section. and the ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. 2 down, 10 to go, Tejo said to himself. The remaining Velkari ships began to panic. They had expected to face a helpless merchant, not a warship disguised as a cargo hauler. Their formation broke apart as each captain tried to save his own vessel. This was exactly what Tejo had wanted. Divided enemies were easier to defeat than coordinated ones. Computer, target the nearest enemy vessel. Prepare missile tubes 1 through 4. Missiles armed and ready, Captain. The Iron Phoenix carried more than just railguns. Tejo had installed a full complement of human military weapons, all hidden within the ship's innocent-looking exterior. The missiles he was about to fire were not the simple explosive warheads used by most species. These were human kinetic kill vehicles, designed to punch through the heaviest armor. The third Velkari ship died when 4 missiles struck it simultaneously. The alien vessel's shields and armor might have stopped 1 or 2 impacts, but not 4. The ship broke in half, its crew spilling into the vacuum of space. War Commander Nethkor watched his fleet being destroyed with growing horror. This was not a battle. This was a massacre. The human was picking off his ships one by one, and there seemed to be nothing they could do to stop it. All ships concentrate fire on the human vessel, he ordered desperately. Hit it with everything you have. The remaining 9 ships turned toward the Iron Phoenix and fired together. Plasma beams, ion cannons, and missiles filled the space around the human ship. Surely no vessel could survive such concentrated firepower. But again, the Iron Phoenix defied their expectations. The ship's advanced armor absorbed the energy weapons, while point defense systems shot down the incoming missiles. The human vessel continued to glow with absorbed heat, but it showed no signs of serious damage. Hull temperature at 85% of maximum, the computer reported to Tejo. Still within acceptable limits, he replied. Continue engaging targets. The Iron Phoenix fired its railguns again. 2 more Velkari ships disappeared in flashes of released energy. The tungsten slugs continued past their targets, traveling at such high speed that they would remain dangerous for hours. Nethkor realized that his raiding fleet was doomed. The human ship was not just better armed and armored than they had expected. It was piloted by someone who knew exactly how to use those advantages. Every shot was perfectly aimed. Every maneuver was precisely calculated. This was not luck. This was skill combined with superior technology. The war commander made a decision that went against every instinct he had developed in years of successful raiding. He activated his ship's emergency beacon, calling for reinforcements from the main Velkari fleet. He was admitting that 12 warships could not defeat 1 human merchant. The beacon's signal raced through space at faster-than-light speed, carrying news of the disaster to Velkari command. Soon Admiral Krextel would know that something impossible was happening in the Kepler 4E42 system, but help would not arrive for several hours. Until then, Nethkor and his remaining ships would have to survive against an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. The Iron Phoenix turned toward its next target, weapons charging for another devastating attack.